Hi, welcome to Miss Richardson's U.S. History 5-Minute Lectures. This information will be U.S. Notes 1.16, Gilded Age Presidents versus Progressives. It includes information aligned with the third section of your study guide. Remember that you control the notes and the lecture. Pause whenever you need, write down your questions, and rewatch if you need to. Of course, always use your study guide to help you take your notes. Let's go ahead and get started. In these notes, I want to compare the Gilded Age presidents to the Progressive Era presidents. I want you to see and understand the difference between the two time periods. In order to do this, you have to know a bit about the characteristics and actions of presidents in each period. In the Gilded Age, presidents shared many common traits. They were characterized by the policy of laissez-faire, which means hands-off. This policy dealt with economics. It was the idea that government had a hands-off approach to business. They didn't regulate it, didn't get involved. Presidents let businesses do what the owners thought was best. Gilded Age presidents also worked against labor unions and movements. They sided with the businesses and owners in strikes, sending support whenever it was needed. These men also practiced patronage and the spoils system. This meant that they gave government jobs to political supporters. It was an extension of the political machines we talked about at the local level. If someone helped the president to get elected, he could appoint them to a government position. The appointee may not even be qualified for the job, but it wouldn't matter. These people were generally lazy, corrupt, and incompetent, which actually hurt the country. Ultimately, attention was actually brought to the patronage and spoils system at the national level when President Garfield was assassinated in 1881. His assassin had expected a job due to his support in the election, and when he didn't get the job he wanted, he assassinated Garfield. The laissez-faire presidents in the Gilded Age included Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, and McKinley. They were presidents between 1869 and 1901, and when McKinley died in 1901, this whole idea of the presidency shifted to a more progressive approach. This shift occurred after McKinley was assassinated by an anarchist in 1901. His vice president, the 42-year-old Teddy Roosevelt, became president. Roosevelt was a very active president, both with progressive issues domestically and with his foreign policy actions. He was one of the most progressive presidents the U.S. had ever had. He's known for his trust busting, the Pure Food and Drug Act, the Meat Inspection Act, and conservation efforts. We'll actually look at those more at Roosevelt's policies in our next set of notes. Roosevelt was the first of the progressive presidents. Under his presidency and those following, the public became aware of the changes that needed to happen. They supported national legislation limiting governments, stopping the corruption of political bosses and machines, and ending many workplace issues, and just generally helping society. Some of the national laws that passed included Amendment 17, the direct election of senators, as well as 18 and 19. Also, other voting reforms were passed to end political corruption. Recall laws were created to allow voters to remove an official from office. This meant that if an individual was elected, then found to be corrupt, the voters could actually demand a new election to vote the official out. This gave power back to the voters. Another voting reform was the creation of the initiative process. This allows groups of citizens to propose legislation and have the legislature vote on it. People no longer had to wait to see if their government would do something. They could actually propose the laws themselves. Again, more power to the people. The direct primary was another new creation around giving more power to the voters. Previously, only party leaders were able to vote in primary elections. Primary elections are the elections where the party chooses a candidate to run in the general election against the other party. Under the direct primary, all party members could vote for the candidate they wanted. This allowed the voters more power over who represented them in the elections and ultimately who represented them in government. Some progressive presidents focused on economic reforms, changing the way banks were set up, regulating banks, regulating tariffs, breaking trusts. The real common thread between these presidents was not what they changed, it was that they changed. Gilded Age presidents practiced a hands-off attitude leaving the country to corrupt businesses and government leaders. Progressive presidents practiced a hands-on attitude, working to fix the problems they saw and change what didn't work. In the end, this changed the American expectation of government. People began to expect the government to regulate the economy and address social issues. This idea of hands-on government still exists today and can be seen in many of the current policies of our government. This is the end of U.S. Notes 1.16. Hopefully you learned something from this 5-minute lecture. I'll see you in class tomorrow with any questions you have.